In this how-to video, you will learn how to work with demographic data in NVivo 12. Make sure you have saved a copy of the PDF file Profiles for GP Interviews. I'm working from the GP Responses to Carers Support file. Within NVivo, you can create a number of classifications. To do this, what we do is under Cases, we select Case Classification. In the box, we can right-click and add New Classification. Here a new box will appear where we can select Add one or more predefined classifications for case. If you want to create your own new classification, you can do so as well. But we're going to select Person. This will appear under the case classification area. Now we can select the plus box and you can see that there's already pre-populated selections for cases. Now we need to add values to our cases. So if we double click on sex, we go to the values tab, we want to add a value. The first one I'm going to add is female. We're going to add again, and this time I'm going to add male. We're going to click apply and OK. We don't have the participant's age group, but we do know their occupation. We know from the document, the PDF document, that we have those who are rehabilitation specialists and those who are general practitioners from private practice or as medical directors. So under occupation, we're also going to add some attributes. So again, we're going to double click on occupation. We're going to add values. We're going to select add, and we're going to type rehabilitation specialist. We're going to click add, and we're going to also type general practitioner. Add, apply. If you've added an extra one by mistake, you can just select the one that's been added, click remove, and then continue with apply and OK. We also know the country of birth for many of the participants. So again, we're going to right click and add values here. So we're going to add Australia, add United Kingdom, and we're also going to add Japan. Apply, OK. There's a number of attributes that we haven't actually completed because we don't know the information. So in this case, we are going to right click and delete those attributes. So I've right clicked and delete email address. I'm also going to right click and delete name, and I'm going to right click and delete age group. So now we have our case classifications for our participants. Now we need to be able to populate these. So to do this, we're actually going to select cases. Here we're going to create cases based on our participants. So I'm going to right click and select new case, and I'm going to type in the name of our first participant, Tom. Select OK. Then I'm going to right click, select a new case, and continue, and do the same for Jane, same for Pam, and the same for Neil. Now what we need to do is we need to go from the transcripts and select the information for each of the participants so that when we go to analyze it, we know that that information was actually said by that participant themselves. So Tom's interview is already open, so without selecting the question, I'm just going to select the text that was said by Tom, highlight it, copy, and drag it under Tom. You can see again, like with the nodes, that the files and the references appear. I'm going to continue to do that for all of Tom's responses to all 5 questions. Now I have to go back to my files, and I'm going to select Jane, double click on Jane, and her transcript will open. I'm going to go back to my cases and make sure Jane's on the list and repeat that same step. Highlight and drag and drop all the information said by Jane under Jane. It doesn't matter if you've highlighted everything, you'll find that all that information will still appear underneath the transcript. And I'm going to repeat that same step for Pam. It does seem like we're doubling up a little bit with the information since we've actually already coded the transcripts, but doing this will allow us to now look a little bit further at some group differences. So it's an additional step in the coding process, but it's quite an important one. So again, I'm just going to repeat the last one for Neil. And you can see that the references, once I've completed them all, should have 5 in them based on the 5 questions that were asked during the interviews. So you can also check to make sure that you've done it correctly as you're working through the information. And last one. There, so now we have all the information that we needed. Now that all the information has been placed under each of the participants' name, what we can do is we can highlight all participants, right-click on what you've highlighted, select classification, and select person. Now we can go under classification and open classification sheet and select person. Now a box will appear where we can now select the classification for each person. So for example, with Jane, we can select female. For Neil, we can select male. Pam, female. Tom, male. For the occupations, we can also select rehabilitation specialist for Jane, GP for Neil, GP for Pam, and rehabilitation specialist for Tom. Now, if we want to go back to our GP assistant sheet, we can see that Tom was educated in the UK. So under Tom, we can select United Kingdom for country of birth. We can see that Jane was hometown is from Bunbury, so we can select Australia. We can see that Pam was originally born in Tokyo. So for Pam, we can select Japan. And the last one for Neil, we can see that he has lived in Perth all of his life. So we can select Australia. So now we have all the attributes assigned to our cases that we've created, and we can go from there to look at that information a little bit further. So now that that has been created, what we can do is we can begin to run some analysis. So we can look at the query sort of functions underneath the Explore tab. So we're going to begin by running a word frequency. So a number of options will appear, a new screen will occur where we will select a number of options based on our participants and the most common frequency of responses. So instead of displaying 1,000 words, we're going to change that down to 300. We're going to keep the minimum length at 3 for the moment. We're going to keep in search, files, select all files, and selected folders the same. However, under grouping, we're going to change that to with stemmed words. We're going to now select Run Query, and you can see that the word length count and weighted percentage will appear for each word that has been said within the transcripts. On the right, additional tabs have appeared that we can select between. So the first one's our summary that's appeared. We can also look at our word cloud that has appeared, and this is a nice way of displaying the information. The larger the word, the more it has been said within the interviews. We can also select our tree map, and it shows boxes around the words and indicates how much that word has been said. So the bigger the box, the more times that word has been said throughout the transcripts. And we can also look at our cluster analysis. And here, even though it's a bit small, we can open it up a bit more, and you can see that it's grouped the words depending on what's been said based on the codes and the nodes that you have created. Underneath the Explore function, we can also do a coding query. So underneath coding, a new tab will appear, and this is where we can select differences and look at the differences between the groups and the attributes that we have created. So underneath the coding function, we're going to maintain with files and externals, selected items, selected folders, all the same. We are going to change any coding criteria to any. We're going to change coded, we're going to keep coded at, we'll select any case where, we'll select the double dots, the triple dots, and a new box has appeared with our attributes. So we can double click and select the plus box to open up our attributes, and here we're going to select sex. We're going to click OK, and you'll see that additional boxes have appeared, equals value, and a drop down menu, and we're going to select female. Now we can run the query, and you can see the reference tab has opened up and it has identified all the information said by the female participants, and it's just been grouped based on a reference and where it's been placed within the code itself. If you select the text tab, you can also see that the information has been grouped by the individual participants' responses themselves. So you can see that you can just examine what Jane has said, and you can also look at Pam's responses and just see what Pam has selected. So that concludes this how-to video on how to work with demographic data within NVivo 12.